Hey everybody, hey, this is Kameel with the Rig on Wheels show, and this is the first ever truck driver and recruitment show. Of course, I am your host, Kameel E. Gaines, the CEO and founder of Rig on Wheels, broker and recruitment services, and this is Robert Pierson, our favorite VP over there at MVT, Missoula Valley. We have you in Houston again, huh? So you're just going to move here, right?
It feels like it. Hopefully this time will be easier to get out of town, though.
Yeah, it took him about 5 days to get home. You know, Houston just kept flooding and flooding and flooding.
Oh, trust me, I was not too proud. I even checked Amtrak and Greyhound.
Yeah, it was bad. Last week was pretty bad, but we are here and we're your ultimate destination when it comes to your truck driver industry news, insights, hot jobs. We definitely got some hot jobs for you, and recruitment tips. So definitely stand by. We got a good show for you today, but we're going to start it off with some news. So
let's start with fuel. One of your favorite topics.
It's down. It's going down. It's going down.
Yeah, 5 out of the last 6 weeks at $3.72. That's down 3.2 cents from the week before. Gas as well for those four-wheelers out there is at $3.51 on average, down 6.1. So that's nice. 5 out of 6 weeks we've been down. Even that week was more of a steadying the ship of it. So that's exciting. So we're starting to see, and you'll talk a little bit about freight rates. So we're seeing freight rates go in the right direction, fuel going in the opposite direction. Of course, on the spot market, that's an all-in rate, so that's a really nice sign.
Yeah, that's definitely the way we like to see it. Yeah. I mean, we are at the top of June, and I really wanted everything to go well for the second half of the year. I was like, we need to manifest this. But let's go back to diesel just for a second. We are still 7 cents less, 7.1 cents less than it was last year. So we don't even think about how it was higher last year than it was this year. We always just think about, oh, it's just so high. But dry van is up 4 cents, so it's at 205. Reefer is up 3 cents, so it's 243. And then flat is flat. All pun intended. I just wanted to say that. 245.
Getting excited from a dry van standpoint, it's about 4.5 loads per truck. If that last week it was at 4.9. If that can start getting to where it's about 5-to-1, we should see some progress going into the remainder of the year here. Like we've talked about, a lot of drivers have been taken off the road with the clearinghouse and aging out of the population during COVID. So we may be coming in some times that from an economic standpoint, it's not that significant overall, but in the world of trucking, supply and demand, there may be some opportunities that come out of it over the next several months. We're starting to see in a number of markets where when we start a day, we're already overbooked. And that's a beautiful word in trucking, is being overbooked.
Yeah, that's really good. Very good. Now, did you have any other news for us?
Yeah, we'll talk a couple things here. There's an interesting story on Transport Topics today from Eric Miller over there. Trucking attorneys need to get aggressive, experts say. They had a gentleman, a litigation psychologist, which I don't know how you get that job, but that sounds cool. Bill Kansky, he talked about the fact that we need to get much more aggressive. It's not the person on the billboard that you need to worry about. They're looking for a quick payday. They want to settle. They want to move on. They are a problem, but there's a lot of these attorneys that want that massive payday that they got back in 2018, in a couple cases of $100 million. One of the things that they talk about, though, is the way our industry can protect ourselves, because they point out us being witnesses is not going to win us a lot of cases. Often, if you have an accident and you talk to 4 different eyewitnesses, those 4 different eyewitnesses saw 4 different stories. Doesn't help. He also points out that problem witnesses who are unable to answer difficult questions that plaintiff attorneys use to lead them down a dangerous path. These attorneys are professionals at guiding you to where they want you to go during the discovery phase. An ineffective witness testimony strategy: when a trucking witness is argumentative and tries to win the deposition, it's not time for you to be Perry Mason. An emotional witness who gets easily upset during questioning, or a witness who has cognitive breakdowns, meaning that they're not professional speakers. These are lawyers that practice for years on getting you to say what they want you to say, not what happened. So one of the things that we do at MVT, and we kind of talk it a little bit here, is those cameras become a big asset to us, not just us as a company, but you as a driver. And there's a couple things on that. When you have concrete evidence of, hey, here's videotaped evidence of what took place, that makes a huge difference and protects you on the road, combined with a number of other things. We hire drivers with really clean backgrounds, good PSPs, safety conscious professionals on the road. When you combine that with that actual video evidence, it makes a small legal issue stay a small legal issue instead of giving a trained attorney the opportunity to stick it to you. One of the things that we have is outward facing cameras. And then I always try to explain to people, not all inward facing cameras are the same. We have inward facing cameras, but they're literally AI. So as an example, if you're driving for MVT, is I have no way to log in and take a look at you in the truck. Like, I don't have any capabilities to do that whatsoever. No one in our company does. It's literally AI. So if you hard braked, had a collision, a quick movement, it gets about 15 seconds of data. And to be honest, we have to go through the vendor to actually get that 15-second clip. So it's not something that we even have access to. We have to reach out to the provider, the actual vendor, to get it. And there's some legal grounds that go through that. But I will tell you, as a driver, God forbid, I hope you never run into this scenario, but if you're ever taken where an attorney's trying to stick it to you, that video evidence is much more valuable than any testimony you'll ever give in any trial.
And that's the purpose of the lawyer, is to stick it to you.
They're
absolutely trying to win the case for their client.
Oh, absolutely. And so the big thing for us here is, if it's a he said, she said type of argument, we're normally going to lose. We're viewed differently as professional drivers over the road. We do not get that innocent until proven guilty in many cases, unfortunately. Right. So that video evidence becomes very, very important. And so it's one of the things that's interesting to see Transport Topics covering. And then, of course, we talked last week that the 30th, we were going to do our quarterly driver appreciation event. Had massive turnout in all of our locations. We did it in our Hudson's Yard, Nashville, El Paso, Denver. Really good attendance. And we have a gentleman named Anthony Rios who ended up winning it. I don't have his MPGs yet. I'll have that next week. Anthony joined us a couple years ago as a brand new driver out of El Paso. Been with us ever since there about 2 years ago. So congratulations there. He got a brand new 2023 Nissan Sentra. So really nice car, and we always get excited for that giveaway. And it's, we'll talk a little bit more about MPGs later on, obviously. Yeah. But it's always exciting to give a brand new car away, and Royal Jones would have been pumped to do that. Yeah,
I kind of want to talk about him a little bit, because is this the guy that started out as a trainee?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So he started out as a trainee in 2022. And so he's just over 2 years with MVT. So his entire journey after getting his CDL has been with MVT.
Yep.
Okay. So he's not a job hopper, obviously. No. So he's a professional driver. His entire career of a little over 2 years has been with MVT, and he's just won this car.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty.
And I will say, primarily, we look for experienced drivers, people with at least 6 months of experience. However, we do have opportunities for recent grads, either out of El Paso, Nashville, Dallas, Fort Worth, or Laredo. So there are opportunities if someone graduated from an accredited school in the last 12 months. Generally, we're getting experienced drivers. But like I point out with the MPG bonus, it is not always the 20-year vet that's getting that award. 3 quarters ago, it was somebody that had been with us a total of 9 months. Yeah. Joined us from a country overseas, joined us as their first trucking job within the U.S. under a visa program. And then in this case, this individual has been with us just 2 years. So it is not the 20-year vet. It's not one specific division. literally, it's not luck that makes it happen. It is a calculated approach to better fuel economy. They work with their fleet manager, a driver service department that deals with career development for our drivers, as well as other people in the company. So a lot of opportunity there, and Anthony definitely well-deserved.
I like to just see, since we've been doing this podcast show, everybody that's been winning, it's just been a diverse background. It's just not been one type of driver. That's what I'm noticing. It's just been different types of drivers.
Yeah, I can't really point to, and this is one of the things with MVT, we don't really have a stereotypical driver, but if you look at the success through the ranks, be it our trainers or what we call mentors, be it our, what I view as leaders, because there's definitely, if we want to make a change and need to get feedback from a drivers, we'll generally create a committee of anywhere between 12 to 15 drivers. And so we look for people that are successful, be it with MPG, performance, safety. There's not really one category that they'd fit into.
One thing I can say that is a common, they are all been professional drivers, because that's the only drivers that can win this, because they have to be committed to actually winning.
Yeah, and I'll point out why, 90% of the freight that we move is contracted freight. It is literally direct customer freight. The reason for that is we are not the cheapest carrier. We're not in that game. We offer high levels of service, often 99% or better on time percentages. We have no categories above threshold on any of the 7 CSA categories. If there is a common denominator, it'd be the professional of our driver base, professionalism. I would put our driver base up against any carrier in the country.
Yeah. That's pretty good. And congratulations, Anthony. That's very good right there. Well, I mean, since we have been talking about MPGs, I think, Kayla, this is a good time. We can just kind of switch up the segments a little bit, because this is a good time for you to play Carlos' commercial, and then we come back and talk about MPGs a little bit, so we can have a little bit of background on how Anthony actually did win the car.
Mi nombre es Carlos Vázquez, tengo trabajando 3 años aproximadamente y somos B1 y andamos en territorio de Estados Unidos. Lo que me gusta de MVT es que tiene buenos viajes, buenos camiones y muy buenas millas. Mi comunicación con el despacho es muy buena y todo eso, y siempre están a la orden del día. ¿Qué pienso del equipo de los camiones? Pues que están muy bien y les dan sus mantenimientos, sus PO y todo lo demás, alineación y balanceo, todo, cambio de llantas y excelente servicio. La compañía cada trimestre regala un auto para los corredores. Me motiva pues a crecer más como persona y pues, para dar el 100, como dicen, para la compañía.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. So, Pierson, tell us about, literally, I know we don't have the stats on Anthony. You'll have that next time when all of that comes out. But tell us the overall how Anthony even was able to win.
Well, I'm fairly confident he would have been in the 12.4 to 12.8 range in terms of fuel economy, because that tends to be where the leaderboard's been going here. And so in a world where once you get the equipment, once you get the customers, there's only 2 ways to save money in this industry. It's either through driver pay or it's through fuel economy. And fuel economy is the big name of the game. Even when fuel's expensive, even when fuel's cheap, at the end of the day, what separates one company to another company is that fuel economy. And we take it extremely seriously between the type of equipment that we operate, how often the truck gets washed, when the PMs are done, where they fuel at, when they fuel. The biggest thing, though, tends to be driver behavioral patterns, how the truck is driven above anything else. So in an industry that averages about 6.5 miles a gallon, we average about 9.5 miles a gallon. That makes a huge difference. For a fleet of our size, that is approximately a $70 million annual savings, that 3 miles per gallon difference. With that said, we want to reward drivers that are successful on the road and exceed any expectations that should realistically exist for them. So between the drivers and working with them to get better fuel economy, making sure that we're paying attention to the equipment and that's being well maintained, working with them on developing their career beyond just their driving career, but their long-term career with MVT, we work to get the best fuel economy possible. So as a driver, I'm able to see where I rank versus my competition on the fleet. I literally can either see on my in-cab communication, or I can see on the wall when I go into any of the terminal. It's updated every Monday, and I can see, oh, hey, Kameel's number 84 this week on a fleet of 1,500. I'm sitting at 79, so we'll have competition amongst ourselves to see who's going to get the better fuel economy, and whoever wins for the quarter gets a brand new car. Like I said, the quarterly seems to be in that 12.4 to 12.8 at this moment right now, but somebody's going to hit that 13 number within the next year, I guarantee it. And then whoever gets the best fuel economy for the year gets $25,000. We've been doing that for a long time. The foster child that I'd point to on that is a gentleman named Roberto Sandoval. Roberto's won it 5 times. So over the course of about a decade, he's given himself an extra $125,000 in revenue without running an extra mile. It is not who goes down the road the fastest. So when you see an 18-wheeler go by you at 75 miles an hour, that person's generally the one that the last year's not been very pleasant for. I promise you, between the safety issues, I'm sure you've heard all the conspiracy theories. My truck's sweet spot's at 72.
Right.
You got to get there quick. If I can just get one extra load for the week, it doesn't work like that. We all, in this era of electronic e-logs, we all play in the same sandbox at this point. We are all in that same bucket. It's just like watching a NASCAR race. One driver's car to another driver's car is not that different. What makes the difference is who's behind the wheel, and ultimately their pit crew. So we're the pit crew back in El Paso. They're ultimately the professional behind the wheel, and it's getting as much out of that fuel economy as you possibly can.
So let's talk about this. What is the department that Anthony most likely was getting coached to talk to in order to?
Oh, it would have been a partnership between driver services and its fleet manager, because the fleet managers are extremely competitive about their drivers having an opportunity at that. The fleet managers have a fiduciary or financial interest in your success, both in terms of your fuel economy, but what your weekly paycheck is. They're viewed, how we judge a good fleet manager from a bad fleet manager is A, their on-time percentage, and then B, the financial markers of their drivers. So if I'm a fleet manager and I have 40 drivers, I'm viewed, the fleet manager next to me are literally measured of whose drivers are more successful. And that's both financially as well as them getting their home time when they're supposed to get their home time and the utilization of the equipment. So your fleet manager has a financial interest in you being successful. Their entire bonus structure is set up around their driver's success. The second piece of that then is working through driver services. And that driver services department is always available to you. And they're working on everything from safety, fuel economy, and your long-term career goals. You may want to become a mentor down the road, or get into the owner-operator game, or you may determine, hey, 5 years from now, I'd like to be a fleet manager, or maybe I want to get into management. So a lot of times that driver services department is going to be working on both short-term and long-term goals with you to help you reach those goals.
I like that. And actually working with them and doing what they are advising, that's part of what produces a professional driver.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people with CDLs and former MVT driving experience through our ranks. So our owner was one of the drivers when he started the company with 5 drivers and 5 trucks. We have a lot of people, VP level, director level, in the safety department. Most of our road testers literally drove for us. So we are really big about trying to hire from within for those positions before we open it up to the general public, because that driving experience is extremely valuable. If you can say, I've seen it, I've done it, I've been there. It's one thing to read things from a textbook. It's another thing to get that experience off the road and into the company, into those office positions, because it helps us immensely.
Love it. Well, Kayla, I think we should go ahead and go to commercial, because what we want to do is go over some hot divisions. We have plenty of jobs open, but we got 3 very, very hot divisions this week that's broad across the in playing field, all across the geography here. So, Kayla, let's go ahead and go to commercial.
Hello, everybody. I'm DeAnthony Davis. I'm a truck driver from Cleveland, Texas. I've been driving for 3.5 years now. I recently saw a podcast with Rig on Wheels on YouTube. I gave them a call. They was fast. They was efficient. They helped me out. I didn't really want to be over the road, so they got me a good regional job. And hey, you should give them a call.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay, so let's do, what division did you want to do first?
Let's start with 130. We'll go in chronological order.
Okay.
Division 130, really biggest part of this division is length of haul. Direct customer freight, lots of drop and hook. There's going to be at least one length of haul during the week that's going to be about 1,500 to 1,800 miles. So that's where the miles start to rack up pretty quick. Average driver is making about $16.20 a week. And when I say average driver, I'm not talking about the top 10%, the bottom 10%. Literally, if you work a full week, 90% of individuals are going to be within $100 of this amount. So average week's about $16.20. A lot of drop and hook opportunities. We generally, we're hiring out of the markets of Phoenix, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Las Cruces, New Mexico, Dallas, Texas, San Antonio. So there's opportunities there where you're out 10 to 14, home 2 to 3. We got to hire within 75 miles of those places. And one of the things you'll look on that map that you see on the screen there makes it look like you go to the Northeast. I want to be real clear about what our version of the Northeast is. We don't go to New York City. We don't go to New England. If you see one of our trucks going to New England, either someone's going to visit family and we've worked out a special arrangement for them, or someone's stolen the truck, because there should not be one of our trucks up in Maine. With that said, it's a really nice division. Like I was saying, a lot of direct customer freight. This is one of the divisions that the customers on this particular division have been very steady for us, even during the quote-unquote freight recession. This division's continued to stay consistent at that 1620 mark. If you look at that on a yearly basis, and it helps if I do that in advance instead of at the last minute, but that generally would bring you out to about $85,000 a year. So really good opportunities on Division 130. Kayla, can you pull up Division 410? This is one of my favorite divisions. If you've ever lived in the Southeast, you kind of want to stay close to home. This is a really nice regional division. We hire out of the Nashville marketplace for this at this moment. In Nashville, you're never going to be more than a day away from the house. So God forbid something goes wrong, you're going to be close to home when that happens. With that said, our folks are getting weekly home time, averaging $1,650 a week, generally going to be in that $85,000 to $87,000 range. There's also productivity bonuses with this. So as an example, if you run 10,000 miles for the month, which if you run for a full month, you're going to hit that, and you don't have any tickets, any accidents, any late deliveries, or late times getting back into the truck once your home time's done, we add an extra 2 cents to all your miles retroactively that you ran. If you hit 12,000 miles in the month, which is very realistic, you're going to get a total of 5 cents added to all your miles versus your base pay. So ends up paying about $90,000 to $95,000, which if you live in Nashville, there's a lot of trucking jobs out there that are going to pay you $50,000 to $70,000 a year. Nashville's expensive. Nashville's gotten a very pricey post-COVID as far as rent and mortgage payments and everything else. This is one of those jobs that you're going to get home every week. You're going to be in that $90,000 to $95,000 range, going to be very consistent. And just like all other divisions, you don't have to get any endorsements. There's no touch freight. You're not a lumper. The key is you're that professional behind the wheel that understands customer service and ultimately getting to the customer on time. That is your value proposition. Tends to be a very popular division. We could use 6 to 7 people on this division over the next couple of weeks here. So a lot of opportunities. So be sure to apply for that position. That would be Division 410. So when you talk to your recruiter, trust me, they're going to know based off of where you live what divisions are available. But with that said, if you want to skip to the head of the line, just say Division 410. One of Kameel's fine recruiters will know exactly what you're talking about. Let's do Division 430. This is the stress-free division is what I'd call this. So if you live in Jacksonville, you've had recruiters trying to send you up I-95 constantly to D.C. and New York and Baltimore, or they've tried to send you to Atlanta where you get to experience the fun that is driving on 285 around Atlanta in an 18-wheeler. This division runs along I-10. You're going to go Jacksonville to Houston to Laredo and then back to Jacksonville. You're going to be out about 4.5 days at a time to 5 days. You're going to be home. You're going to rest up. You're going to get your 34-hour reset, and you're going to do it all over again. This is a fun division to where you don't have a lot of the worries that you have running anywhere else in the country. Once every 3 years, a hurricane may slow you up, and you don't want to drive into a hurricane, but you're not going to have a massive winter storm. You're not going to have snow. You're never going to have to chain up your tires. And I-10, as long as you pre-plan around Houston, which is where you will hit traffic, I've seen it and I know you have.
Yeah.
If you pre-plan around that, the only spot that you end up hitting real traffic is going to be Houston. Outside of that, in between Houston and Jacksonville, some of the easiest running area in the country. There's a popular division where we gain 2 to 3 people for this division a week. I still have about 20 openings out of this market right now. Obviously, we're not going to try and bring on 20 drivers at once for this. But with that said, we're always looking for 2 to 3 a week to join our team and be a coworker with us for Division 430.
Okay, good. Now, I have something I want to say. You said never be a day away from the house when we talked about 410.
Yeah.
Can you explain that again?
Yeah, so from a geography standpoint, you're never really going that far out. You're hitting the southern Great Lakes states and you are hitting Southeast regional. So sometimes life happens. So let's say that a kid fell and broke his arm, or God forbid, a medical emergency happened. It could be that your wife's pregnant and could be having a baby at any moment.
Right.
Sometimes life doesn't fit a perfect plan, and your ability to drop everything and get back home becomes really, really important. That's where a lot of these shorter regional divisions have a lot of value. Hopefully the day comes where you don't use it, but every once in a while that opportunity to get home when you need to get home becomes really important. I think about it, my wife and I, we have 5 kids. We've been through the delivery thing. You may have a due date, but that may get sped up by a couple of days, or it may get pushed out a week.
That's what I was about to say.
And
Or
so,
2.
Yeah. And so that ability to, hey, my wife's gone into labor, I got to get home. That ability to do that is why Division 410 and a division we've also talked about, 329, become really important to drivers, because that ability to get home as a driver is hard to find with a lot of jobs. If you're at a traditional OTR company where you're out 4 to 5 weeks at a time, it just may not be feasible. That just may not be for you. On the flip side of it, a lot of local jobs where you're home every night don't pay really great.
Right.
And so that's the thing, is you have the burden of being a breadwinner on a house, be it male or female. If you're the breadwinner in the house, you got to make money. But when life happens, you also have to be available to be home.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I just wanted more clarification on what that meant, but that is really good because you are very close to home and emergencies definitely do happen.
Yep. And speaking of, I'll throw that out there. We won't talk about it this week, but next week we'll probably be talking about Division 329 again, which would be the Texas version of that. Where if you live in Texas, you're able to be never more than a day from the house. So that's something to tune in for next week. Again, though, if we didn't talk about any of the markets that you particularly live in, we hire from a bunch of other places. Portland, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, Denver, El Paso, Albuquerque, San Antonio, Laredo, Dallas-Fort Worth, Houston, Nashville, Memphis, Louisville, Kentucky, St. Louis, and Jacksonville, just to name a few. And then, of course, Kameel has about 40 other clients. And so one of the nice things here, even though I'm a little bit biased and I'm going to have you join Team MVT, the nice thing here that you're going to be able to do is talk to Kameel's recruiters. And you're going to talk about what your wants, your needs are, and what your background is. And they're going to look, MVT may be the right option. I'm hoping that it is, but you may not be a good fit for MVT. You may be a good fit for XYZ trucking. So the nice thing, instead of sitting on a phone and having to make 40 separate phone calls, trying to figure out what's going to be the best opportunity for you, is you call Kameel's team and they act as your agent. Think of yourself as a sports star. You're a person that hits 40 home runs a year. You want to go someplace, but you also don't want to be on a carousel where you're a free agent every single year. You want to find your long-term home. That's where Team Rig on Wheels comes into play.
And so definitely give us a call at 281-968-3100, 281-968-3100, or go directly to the website and complete an Intella app, which is under the driver application tab. So you can do either one, and one of the recruiters would definitely give you a call back ASAP. So we are going to go to commercial, come back, and then see if we have any questions, and then answer all of those questions. All right, thanks. Be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Okay, Kayla, any good questions for us today? Or what
Yes,
good questions, I guess?
The first one I have is kind of a two-part question. What type of routes are available and are drivers expected to handle specific types of freight?
When they ask what type of routes are.
So what we do is engineered lanes.
Oh.
So again, this is kind of vague because I'm not quite sure where that particular individual lives, but we do engineered lanes. And so one of the key pieces of an engineered lane is dedicated does not necessarily mean bad or good. Dedicated could be all range of the spectrum, but dedicated a lot of times is viewed as being good, and the devil's in the details. Let's say you don't like the company or the carrier or the shipper. That dedicated is no longer such a good deal just because it says dedicated. What we focus on are specific running lanes, point A to point B to point C to point D back to A, as an example. The advantage of that is it makes your pay really, really consistent. You know what your good weeks are going to be and your bad weeks are going to be because you're running those same patterns over and over again. For us, it lets us service a customer with a much higher level of customer service than a lot of carriers that do irregular routes, because it is the same DCs we see day in and day out multiple times a day. So the customers that we work with, like as an example on Division 430, about 60% of the freight there's going to be lows. They know us. They've seen our trucks. They're not surprised to see us. They most likely know a lot of our drivers on a first-name basis at this point. And it allows us that relationship with the shipper, the driver, and us. It's quite unique. The nice thing is, though, is if you go, I don't like this one customer, or I didn't have a good experience here. We have divisions that have 18 different customers. That's one of 18 customers you're going to see. It leads to consistency, similar, good running areas. And part of what we talked about earlier with MPG is as you gain familiarity with specific lanes, you also get more efficient at driving those specific lanes, utilizing the hills, the winds, the time of day that you go against when traffic's going. You can get very efficient if you're always running the same lane over and over and over again. So it's engineered lanes. What was the second part of that question, Kayla?
What are the specific types of freight that drivers are expected to handle?
Yeah, we do dry van. So it's all 100% dry van. It's all no touch. It's general commodities. We do have big customers that we work with, such as General Electric, which seems to be booming for us out of Texas right now. A lot of Lowe's, Starbucks, IKEA, Anheuser-Busch, Tesla. For Division 230 as an example. And so we have very concentrated, I'd say our top 20 customers make up about 80% of our freight. And of those 20 customers, most of them we've had relationships going on 10, 15 plus years.
So there's no hazmat, nothing's going to make you glow in the dark, as Pierson says.
Now, I will always tell somebody, and we've had this conversation too about investing in your long-term career. We don't require any of those things. But as an example, we recently had a customer pop up with kind of a weird request. needed 5 drivers from El Paso to take loads up to Canada, up to Calgary and Edmonton, and they needed, of course, passports to get into Canada. Because the individuals that we needed had those, they end up, it's not one of our open lanes. We go to our fleet, and before we open stuff up to new drivers, we always look within our fleet and go, how can we promote you up? So part of it is coming in the office in that career path, but part of it is, hey, we have what we call an arbitrage opportunity, meaning there's better than average returns from the opportunity. Right. So as an example, we had 5 professional drivers on our fleet. Hey, we've had this dedicated opportunity come up. It's with this established customers. It's going to pay you an extra 20 cents a mile because you have a passport. Would you like to do this? And they jumped at the opportunity. So I will say, if you do get a hazmat endorsement, if you do have a passport, it doesn't mean that we're going to require it from you and that you're not going to make a living with us. But it does mean it opens up to better and bigger opportunities when they become available. And we will always do that. When you join MVT, you will get first dibs. If you're a professional that has a good on-time percentage and extremely reliable, we want to promote you up so that you have the best opportunities available. But as a new driver joining the company, you do not need hazmat. You do not need any endorsements. We're not going to do triples and doubles. We don't do tanker. It's all general commodity, dry van, no touch freight.
And that's exactly what I always say. You know, when you're a driver, make sure you're marketable, be bulletproof, make sure you're marketable. And what that means is have everything. First of all, you never know if you move outside of MVT's hiring area and you need to get another job that requires you to have it, or if MVT has a special customer that does need something, whether it's ongoing or one special time, and you need to have those things. You're a truck driver, so have everything that a truck driver would need. Be marketable. You just never know.
And I'll throw this out there from an advice standpoint, depending on the market that you live in. So as an example, if you live in Houston, having a TWIC card has value. You may not use that TWIC card, but that TWIC card, there's always going to be stuff coming out of the Port of Houston, and it's your backup plan. You always have that option available to you. That TWIC card is extremely valuable if you live out of Houston. If you live out of El Paso, having a passport, having the ability to reap the benefits of NAFTA and the freight coming out of Laredo and El Paso that may end up going all the way north to Canada, we aren't going to require, and you may never use it, but it is a backup plan and gives you a lot of versatility in your career. In other markets, it's that hazmat endorsement and having that opportunity. So if you live in Dallas, Fort Worth, the TWIC card's not a bad thing to have, and neither is that passport. But you having the ability to move hazmat freight gives a lot of options to you out of the DFW area, just because of the sheer concentration of volume of freight that moves in and out of that market. So it's one of those things to think of, and I advise it not only of drivers, but I if it was an accountant or a lawyer or a banker, what are you going to do if the worst happens in your respective field that you chose, your profession? Let's just say business went down in the industry 20%. How would you survive that? And it's a good exercise for anybody in any occupation, but I recommend it to all drivers. If things went really, really bad and the unforeseen happened, we had one of those moments when COVID hit, and we had 3 to 4 really ugly months during COVID. That was hard. 9/11, trucking was not fun. This is all the way back in 2001, but for about 4 to 5 months, trucking was not a lot of fun. So having that backup plan is just good from an overall life standpoint.
You always want to be able to expand, pivot, or however it is you are, whatever word that you want to say, but you want to be able to be as marketable as possible. There's no harm in it.
Nope.
The only thing it can do is make you better. So who wants to fight being better? Well, there are some.
No, but they don't do very well.
They don't. Don't be closed-minded in being better and doing better. What's the next question, Kayla? But that was a really good question. Whoever asked that question, that was excellent. That was an excellent question.
My next question is, what kind of experience are you looking for Division 130?
Yeah. So we're looking for at least 6 months of verifiable tractor trailer in the last year, or 1 year in the last 3. we generally are looking at a safe, stable work history. So it is somebody that's had 4 fewer jobs in the last 3 years. It is somebody that's not had a termination, as an example, for late deliveries. It is not somebody that has 3 accidents, or what's common in our industry that we have to avoid. That's not necessarily a written qualification at most places, but it's a creature of habit. So as an example, if every 2 years you get a speeding ticket at 10 miles per hour, and like clockwork over the last 6 years, you've had that same speeding event happen, companies get very leery because you get the jackhammer or the strong arm, or I'm going to throw a trucker on the billboard that will look at that and literally eat you alive, because they're going, boy, you knew this happened every 2 years. You saw it coming. Yeah. And so by safe and stable work history, I may have 20 available trucks. And if I have 40 candidates, I'm going, hey, who are the best 20 drivers out of those 40s? It does mean that every once in a while I have to go, hey, I can't put you in a truck this week. I have to push you back a week. There are candidates ahead of you. We'd still like to work together. It's just not now. But if someone has a safe, stable work history, and in particular a really stable work history where they can show longevity there's a lot of motivation to make us coworkers.
That's a great question. Another really good questions today, guys. Anything else, Kayla?
We do have a shout out from LinkedIn from Sage Outcast, who says, "Hey now, great show."
Love that. Thank you. All righty. So I think that what we should do is go to commercial. If you can put Joe on, that shows how big the condo is, and show all of the appliances that can be put into the Blue Beast. That would be amazing to show that, because I was actually talking to a driver at my son's graduation this weekend, and he was talking about how small his trucking company had him, the truck that he had. He actually lives up north, so it's outside of MVT's area, but he was complaining about how small it was, and he was a tall human.
You do not want to be a mime in your truck where you're constantly trying to feel your way out. Yeah.
And he was talking about that. So yeah. But if you can go ahead and throw that on for us, Kayla, that would be amazing.
At Mesilla Valley Transportation, every driver is behind the wheel of a late model International LT, a truck that takes comfort, convenience, and safety to a whole new level. Join us as we explore the impressive features of this powerhouse on wheels. The open road is full of surprises, and sometimes that includes unexpected encounters with wildlife. But worry not, the International LT has you covered. The front end protection guard offers an extra layer of defense, protecting you from animal strikes. Drive with confidence, knowing that you're shielded from the unexpected. We all know how important it is to keep our batteries charged, and our International LTs have your back. The Cummins X15 is equipped with an auto start feature, ensuring that your batteries are automatically recharged when they run low on volts. It's a seamless process that keeps you powered up and ready to hit the road. Disc brakes and an engine brake provide reliable and safe stopping power when you need it most. You can have peace of mind knowing that you're in control. Safety is at the forefront of what we do. Our International LTs are equipped with top-of-the-line safety features to ensure your well-being while out on the road. These tractors are equipped with Bendix fusion protection, collision mitigation, and lane departure warning. Achieving good fuel efficiency deserves recognition. With the International LT, your efforts don't go unnoticed. When you consistently achieve impressive miles per gallon, the International LT rewards you with increased speed. It's a little extra motivation to keep you pushing for better fuel economy. After a long drive, you're ready for a well-deserved break. With the International LT, you can enjoy your rest period in absolute comfort. Thanks to its auxiliary power unit, you can keep the driver's cabin heated or cooled just the way you like it. No matter the weather outside, you'll always find your sweet spot within our International LTs. The International LT understands that comfort extends beyond driving. It's a space where you can truly feel at home. I'm a big guy, and I have room to move around in here. With plenty of room to spare, the International LT accommodates even the tallest drivers. And there's ample storage for all your clothes, cooking essentials, and tools, making life on the road even more convenient. Speaking of cooking, bring along your appliances and don't sacrifice any luxuries thanks to all of our International LTs being equipped with built-in inverters. Dry your hair, make a smoothie, or play a game, all from the comfort of your truck. We take pride in our well-maintained fleet. And if by chance you do come across something wrong on your truck, you're never far from help thanks to our valuable relationship with Penske. With more than 750 brick-and-mortar Penske shops nationwide, their expert team is always ready to assist you. From routine maintenance to unexpected repairs, they'll get you taken care of and back on the road in no time. And there you have it. Just a few things about this late model International LT that make MBT the place to be.
That relationship with Penske is probably the less glamorous part of that ad right there, but it's the most important part of it.
Yeah.
The nice thing with our running lanes and those engineered lanes we talked about in response to the question is Penske is literally all along those running lanes. So as an example, a lot of times we'll get a sub unit. So let's say something happens and you can have an assembly line of brand new trucks. 1 out of 100 is going to have something wrong with it. It's going to, trucks are so unbelievably complex at this point. So as an example, let's say that you're going from Dallas to Denver and all of a sudden your air conditioning is not working. You can't get it to work. You can stop at the Penske location in Amarillo. They'll be expecting you. And if they can't get it repaired in less than 6 hours, they will give you a sub unit. So you'll continue on to Denver, deliver the load, go on to El Paso, and as you make your way back up to Dallas for that next spot in the running lane, your truck will be there waiting for you after it's been fixed and set up for you. So we can keep you rolling even when something bad I can't say it.
Yeah.
Inevitably.
That's the word.
Thank you. Happens. We'll be able to keep you going, and that's a big relationship with Penske. They stay on top of it. They do all of our preventative maintenance. We have a really close working relationship between the geography that they have along our running lanes, as well as them being set up at all of our terminals. It gives us a lot of versatility to keep you running as a driver, keep our equipment well maintained, and in the chance that anything goes wrong, there's a backup plan to the backup plan to make sure that you and the load are still able to continue forward.
So are you telling me driver Peter will not have to be in the cab in 115-degree weather?
Oh, your comfort becomes important because part of your success is being comfortable in what you're doing. And so it's not just does it have the power under the hood with the Cummins engine to get you there, but specifically you got to be able to sleep. You have to be well rested. You have to be alert. You have to be comfortable. You can't do that if you're dealing with heat stroke in the summer or freezing in the wintertime. And so we want you to be comfortable when you're going down the road or when you're waiting. So we have great APU units on the back of all the trucks, which allows you the versatility that Joe was showing you as far as all the appliances go. But it also keeps you comfortable. In particular, in Dallas, as an example, you can't idle legally. So you can either go spend $40 a night hooking up to Idle Air at Flying J, or you can rely on your APU to keep that unit going and keep you cool during the summertime, which we're coming up on that time of the year. You can feel the oppressiveness of the heat starting here in Houston with the humidity. You want to have a functional AC in your truck. If you don't, it is a long day, and you can't possibly get a full night's sleep and function correctly the next day.
A long day and a long night.
It doesn't allow you to be safe on the road when you don't get sleep. And on top of that, like we talked about here, as far as getting better MPGs and offering customer service, if you've ever slept in 100-degree heat, the next day you're miserable. You're not going to give very good customer service because you're going to be miserable. So
let me tell you a small story or a short story, and you tell me what would have happened differently if I was a truck driver, or what should have happened differently. So I was taking Patrice Kameel back to her friend's house in Jacksonville, Texas yesterday. And because we were all in the back roads and everything, and then dodging flood waters, and you driving down this one road for 10 miles. And because we're in Timbuktu, there was a road closure because of the flood waters. But of course, they didn't notify Google and all of that type of stuff because they don't have to. It's not a major anything. That means I had to turn around and go back the other way 10 miles. Well, that means my GPS is no longer operating offline now because I've turned around. And everything, it says SOS. There's no signal. And so I'm just driving 10 miles and driving another, just driving. Hopefully I get a signal. So I'm burning gas, which if I'm in a truck, I'm burning diesel. And eventually it pops up, and it was a place that I was supposed to turn. And so I did turn. Then I get to some more water. And coming from Houston, you see water, turn around, don't drown. That's the signs everywhere. So anybody that doesn't live in Houston, you don't know that saying, that's the saying, turn around, don't drown, because you never know how deep the water is. Your eyes are deceptive. Well, utility company truck was going through, and so it was okay for my SUV to go through. But then another half mile or click up the road, it was some more deep water. They was trying to go through and realized I couldn't, so they turned back around. And so they was telling me how to get around without my GPS. Now, mind you, So a 2 hour and 45-minute trip took 4 hours and 30 minutes. However, what should have happened if I was Kameel, the truck driver?
Yeah. So there's a couple of advantages that we didn't talk about with these engineered lanes. We mainly rely on satellite. So very rarely are we relying on that cell phone signal, which can be very inconsistent, even on interstates. There's stretches, if you go up to I-10 and then come up onto where 30 starts, from about Fort Stockton till you start getting up until Midland, Odessa, cell phone coverage is spotty at best. You're on an interstate system, but that cell phone signal, depending on your carrier and at different points, is going to be spotty. The second piece of that equation, though, is we utilize the eyes on the ground. So as an example, we may not get a feed saying, hey, this road is closed or there's been a major accident. That may be late information by the time that we get it. However, we also utilize the fact that we're really running almost a convoy. We have multiple trucks going in that same exact direction. So you will rarely see us going from Dallas to El Paso, as an example. But we'll have 50 to 70 drivers a day going from El Paso up to Dallas because of the engineered lanes that we run. Well, let's say that Kameel stops and sees there's a major accident and it's closed the interstate. You can't move forward. You're literally going to be stuck, and you've been told by a DOT officer, oh, it's going to be several hours. That's information that the 50 drivers behind you could really utilize that information. That is really accurate information. So we will utilize that information for those 50 other people behind you of, hey, this is coming up. Find alternative routes. We'll often work to, hey, this is your alternative route. There's a long line of communication that takes place with that because of those engineered lanes, we're able to do that. Still means that somebody came upon it first.
Right.
But when we have one driver dealing with an issue, we don't want to have 50 drivers dealing with that exact same issue. So there's the advantage of that. Two, because of those engineered lanes, when you go out to Jacksonville out there in East Texas, you're kind of in the boonies. Nothing wrong with East Texas. It's a beautiful area, but you're out in the boonies. So part of the nice thing with us is where our customers are located, before we move load one into a distribution center, we physically have seen it. We know what surrounds it. We know the roads that have surrounded it, because it gets into the safety element for us as a fleet of knowing what challenges are we dealing with.
Right.
So as an example, I worked for a company previously, a flatbed carrier. No longer exists, was sold off. But this flatbed carrier, there was a particular customer that wanted to load moved out of a distribution center. The problem is the way to get out of that was about an 18% grade slope that was quite long that comes out of there. You were going to have load securement issues possible. And there were some clues. I mean, they went through carriers like water. That would have been information that would have been nice to know, because we wouldn't have bid on the business. And it ultimately caused a lot of issues. And we weren't the first carrier, and we probably weren't the last carrier. So part of us, when we pick up new businesses, we want to know the distribution center, the setup, the challenges of going in and out of there. Is it going to be a traffic issue? What's the weather consistently like, depending on the time of the year? There's a lot of factors that really go into pricing out large-scale business in this industry. It's one of the disadvantages of the spot market. If you rely on the spot market, there's a lot of unknowns when you go to pick up that freight. And just because you have on paper what it weighs and what trailer it goes into, that's not the whole story. And so that's why you want a company that has customer freight that they've done work with. It's why we talked about the value of the fact that a lot of these customers we've had 10, 15 plus years. We're familiar with the distribution centers, where they go, who works there, formalities that take place there. Understanding all those things so you have fewer of the unknowns. When you do come upon the unknown, and having a plan and communication system makes a really big difference to a driver's enjoyment of the job and ultimately their long-term safety record.
Yeah. I as I was driving and coming across all these obstacles, and I knew I was gonna eventually get to where I'm going. I don't get nervous or anything behind a car or get road rage or anything like that. People get road rage with me, but I don't get it with anybody else. But I was just thinking, how would drivers deal with these situations? Because obviously they do.
The big thing right now, there's two key pieces here, though, that become really important. We have in-cab communication or in-cab navigation that is specific to a truck, but it's not 100%. No in-cab navigation ever is. The valuable proposition for a driver of being that professional, beyond what we've talked about earlier as far as endorsements, is it's getting lost today. Is being able to read a map is really important.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of drivers. It is scary to me how many times that you open up an atlas and you might as well be talking to them in Lithuanian.
Yeah.
They have no clue what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's very important to know how to read a map. I will say that. Yeah, that's very important to know, because when the actual cell phone and everything went out, I still had the map up, so I was able to figure out a few things.
Yep.
So that was good. But what I definitely want to talk about, and something that Pierson and I brought up earlier, in the fact that the background diversity of each driver was different that won the car. That brings up the fact of the diversity of the road, Faces of the Road 2024 calendar. So no driver is the same that is on the road. And as promised, June is in the calendar, which we have already manifested that is going to be a great start of the rest of the year. So it is part of our Pride Month. And then you also have the other holidays. And Flag Day is our first holiday that is coming up on the 14th. And you have that. And then on the back, you have our Rig on Wheels quote that says, inclusivity is our fuel, diversity is our engine, and unity is our destination. That you have, on each page, you have your QR code that takes you to the application. So if you're a driver, you need the application, you just take your camera and you'll be able to do that. And then it also has each of the icons for the social media.
On my end here, you were going to ask, did I have anything I want to share? I just like the artwork in here, and I appreciate the fact that as we start trying to attract a younger demographic, the next generation into our industry, part of the importance is them envisioning themselves in our industry. You know, one of the reasons back in the 70s why Sandy Koufax was such an important baseball player for a lot of Jewish Americans, that was the first time of seeing somebody, hey, there's another Jew that's in Major League Baseball, and being able to see that. It's why Roberto Clemente was so huge for the Hispanic population, or why you see a lot of that is you can't really dream or envision something if you don't see anybody that looks like you doing it.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those really important parts of this as we try to attract. We are a melting pot of a country, and being able to envision and see other people like yourself that are actually doing the job becomes really, really important. And so it's one of the things that we see the percentage of women in our industry can do increase. It's a great opportunity. This is one of the unique industries that you don't need to have a college degree. Now, I've met a lot of drivers that actually have college degrees and master's degrees even.
Yes.
With that said, though, this is one of those opportunities that it's a good paying occupation. And more than anything else, it's one of the most important jobs that we have in the country. And so somebody being able to look and envision themselves doing the job becomes very important as we move on to the next 10, 15 years from now.
It actually and I'm not just saying this, I'm being serious. It is the most important job because you can't have anything brought to you if it wasn't brought on the truck.
Life would be radically different.
Yes.
Radically different.
The apparatuses that saved somebody's mother's life at the hospital had to be brought by the truck driver.
Yep.
So that's just the way that is. So on that note, now that I have said that, because I definitely believe that this has come to an end, and I know everybody is going to cry about it.
Calm down. We filmed this before a live studio audience, so they're pretty upset.
Yeah, they're crying. They're definitely crying out there. But we want everybody to be safe. If you have any questions, anything you want to see on the show, and of course, want to apply and talk to a recruiter, give us a call at 281-968-3100, 281-968-3100. Not just for the 3 jobs that you saw here, but if any other jobs that you might want, give us a call because MBT does have other openings other than just these. So 281-968-3100 or go directly to the website at rigonwheels.com and click on driver application tab at the top and fill in the Intella app. Other than that, be safe. See you next Tuesday at 3 p.m.